Hi, my name's Nikki. Um, it's been a really long time since I even tried to make a video. I don't know. I've been through a lot of things, and whenever I get in front of a camera, sometimes I just go blank because it's hard to talk about the stuff that I've been through. So I'm just gonna pretend that I'm talking to my husband, who we're about to be married 13 years this year. He's been patient and kind and all the things, so that's amazing. I don't remember a whole lot about my life as a child. I don't have a whole lot of memories. The memories that I do have, not so good. Some of them are okay, but for the most part, it was pretty sucky. I was basically an only child. Oh, my name is Nikki, by the way. I go by Nikki Key. You can call me Nikki or Key. I have had a hard life, I think. I was lost for most of my life. I'm 35. I turned 35 in March of this year. So I was lost. I didn't know which direction to go in for my life. And in 2024, I had a near-death experience. I was camping, and we were in a kayak. Well, I was in a float on the river, and the float flipped. It had been just after a very heavy rain. We were warned that the currents might be kind of strong. And I flipped the float and went underwater. The current dragged me, I don't know how far, underwater, and I had a near-death experience at that time. I was very scared. I mean, scared is an understatement, I guess. It was terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying. I feel like that was the moment where, as soon as I came up out of the water, I woke up. Everything changed after that moment for me. My life did flash before my eyes. I saw all kinds of things I can't even describe. And when I came out of that water, I was bruised. I had my legs had been drugged. I don't know how far. I was bleeding. I had lost my glasses. They were gone downstream. Pretty much everything I had, it was just gone. And then me and my friends, they kayaked us back to the start of it was a floating trip, so they kayaked us back to the start of the float, and I was changed after that. I started to really be able to see where I was still messing up in my life. Things started to just not fit anymore. I went back to church. I started having, I guess, like epiphanies. I would call them epiphanies, or like visions of just random things. And I have always struggled with mental health. I always struggled with my mental health. I struggled with just living, basically. I grew up, it was just me, my mom, and my dad. My dad was a construction worker and he made minimum wage. We didn't never have a whole lot. Uh, we moved around a lot when I was really young. I just remember being in first grade. I went to the same school from daycare through first grade, and then we moved, and then we moved again in third grade, and then we moved again at the middle of third grade, and again at the middle of fourth grade. And then when I ended up in the last school the school district that I stayed in until I was in high school, we didn't move again beyond that. But I struggled a lot as a kid because I never really felt like I fit in. I felt like an outsider. I don't have good memories. My dad was an alcoholic. My mom was frankly bipolar. Crazy. They were both kind of crazy. They fought all the time. They didn't even like each other from what I could see looking in. There was no I love yous. There was no hugs and kisses. There was no, there was no affection. I grew up pretty much with no affection. I was a go to your room kid. Go to your room. And after a while, I kind of liked it there anyway. I liked it better. I was in my head a lot. I played by myself a lot. I had big imagination. Big imagination. I loved playing with toys and playing with anything that rolled. I liked being alone because at least then I wasn't getting yelled at, or they weren't yelling. I couldn't hear them yelling at each other most of the time. Played outside a lot. I love animals. So I've always had a really big connection to animals, birds and cats, especially cats. I love dogs.
Little baby dog right here. Her name is Lady.
She's helped me in ways that I never understood I could be helped, because she has been an emotional support animal for me. This last year especially has been really, really rough on me. I'm sorry to jump around, but there's so much to say, and I just haven't been able to speak. I've had a really hard time speaking up about the things that I've been through. I didn't know where to start. That was a big one. I didn't know what to start with. And I've been watching some people that I consider friends now for this whole year on YouTube, and they've really helped me to kind of find a place where I belong in a way that I've never really known before because of the things that I've been through. Moving so much as a child, I didn't really get to keep a friend. I would move as soon as, the school year was up pretty much. So there for a while I didn't really make friends, and it was just me and my mom. There's my cat. She's a loudmouth. Zombie! Come here. Come here. Bring it to me. Bring it here. I love you. She brought me Mr. Avocado Man. Yeah, I moved around a lot and didn't make friends that way. And then when I kind of settled into the place that I stayed for the rest of my schooling, it wasn't really that great of a place. I'm not gonna lie. It was, the friends weren't friending. they, for some reason, I guess, I just didn't fit in. I always was there, but it was like almost an inconvenience for me to be there. Um, Girls turned on me instantaneously almost. It was like they would like you one minute and then they would hate you the next. I didn't understand it. I still don't really understand that. I don't understand how society works. It doesn't, obviously. But that's beside the point. Anyways, so yeah, it was like every time a friendship would kind of begin, it would end in a way that was very confusing for me. Girls were really mean, really mean. They were hateful, and I guess at this point in my life, I can look back and say that it was obviously jealousy. I didn't do anything to them. I was just trying to be myself, which I feel like is a reoccurring theme in my life. Every time I try to show up as me, it's like I'm not well received. We'll put it that way. I just kind of stopped trying to make friends at a certain point because it was just easier to not. It was easier to be alone. We'll put it that way. So I tried to make friends when I was in middle school. I did have a very best friend who I loved dearly, who died when I was 14. He was hit on the freeway by a state trooper, and that was really my first experience with grief that I didn't understand. Grief in a way that I was too young to understand. That literally, it broke me at the time. I can look back and see that now. I was broken after that. I hadn't really had a good run in the first place, and I didn't really give it any go after that. I gave up on pretty much everything. I also started hanging out with just guys because it was easier. They liked me more, and I didn't have the same, like, there was not as much drama, and I liked video games and stuff. It was just easier. I was on the internet a lot. I started playing MMORPG, Anarchy Online. It was fun. I met people from all over the world on that game. I hold that game dear to my heart because it got me through the death of my friend, and I don't really remember those couple years after that though, because I escaped into the digital world and the internet and everything that was involved in that at the time. Forums. I was on Vampire Freaks. I don't even know the last time I've heard anybody talk about Vampire Freaks, but I was on there all the time, every day. I learned how to code around the same time everybody was learning MySpace. I did both. I was on Vampire Freaks and MySpace. I met a lot of my friends on Vampire Freaks though around the age of 14. And those were people that I talked to on Messenger and everything every day. But there was all kinds of drama on there too, because the girls on there were mean. It was like a rate this profile type situation where you had your photos and then like a profile where you could put your about me and all that stuff. And it was always like, what music do you like and whatnot, and then you could like talk, and they were called cults. It was just like forums where you could post pictures and talk to other people and make threads and all of that. And it was like the biggest thing to be an admin on one of those cults. So that was kind of the goals at the time. That's what I was doing. I was playing Anarchy Online, and I was on Vampire Freaks talking to people basically all day long. just to kind of get away from my home life, because that was not fun. And also, I didn't understand why some of the things that my mom did, I didn't understand then, and I was just happy to get away at the time. But looking back, I don't. As a mom of 3, I am a mother of 3 now. I have a 10-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 3-year-old. Looking back now, I can't imagine doing or allowing the things that my mom allowed at that time when I was 13, 14. I met a boy on Vampire Freaks that he lived 30 minutes away. He lived in Dallas, and I lived in Fort Worth, Texas. And she would drive me there to go stay with him. I stayed there many weekends, overnight. At 14, he was my first, like, love, whatever. And I don't understand how or why I was allowed to do that. Because looking back, like, I made really bad decisions. I made bad choices. I had mommy and daddy issues, obviously. My dad was a workaholic. He worked all the time. He would come home and drink, and he was there but absent. And my mom was kind of like a tyrant. She definitely ruled the household, and we did what she said. I especially did what she said. She scared the shit out of me, to put it frankly. She scared me, and I was scared to the point where I did not do things that, you know, normal kids would probably do and make mistakes because, the repercussions weren't that bad. But I was scared to the point where I knew that if I did anything wrong, it was going to be really freaking bad. Like, so bad that you don't do it. Just don't. So I grew up terrified as a kid. I grew up scared of her and scared to fuck up. I didn't want to poke the bear, you know? And I had a mouth on me too, so it was really hard for me to not talk back, and that was eventually kind of snuffed out, which is why we're here today. I've always wanted to be a YouTuber. I've always wanted to be able to make videos and be online and hang out and have friends, because that's where, I've lurked on the internet since I was 13. I have literally just lurked on the internet, though, since I was 13, because I was too afraid to be on a camera. I'm shy. I had very low confidence, very low self-esteem. I allowed myself to just kind of be taken advantage of a lot. I was naive. I wasn't taught a lot of communication skills. I wasn't taught how to be normal, I guess you would say, because my life wasn't normal. I wasn't treated normal. I was treated differently. Then I can realize now I was treated differently than a lot of kids growing up. Their parents did not do the same things. They didn't treat their kids the way that I was treated. I don't really understand why I was treated the way I was, but that is neither here nor there. That's the whole point of this. I have come a long way from where I began. I started out my life kind of with a bad run of things, I guess. I had a bad role. My parental unit was flawed. I kind of dove into games. I dove into music. music saved my life multiple times. It's been one of those things that it's hard to explain how much music means to me. I can pretty much put a song to any occasion. My life is a soundtrack. I'm always listening to music. I so at 14 I was staying over there a lot, and then I found out that he had a girlfriend, uh, and that I was basically the other woman in that relationship, and that was wild at 13, 14 years old to be the other woman in somebody's relationship, but okay. So I moved on. I started dating a boy on the internet that I met on Vampire Freaks. And I dated him for 3 years, from the time that I was 15, 16 to 17. And we talked on the phone all the time. I had got a cell phone when I was, I think, 14 or 15 maybe. I got a cell phone, flip phone, for the first time, and that was an experience. I talked to him all the time. I got my first job. He had already come to visit me one Christmas, I think. It was around Christmas time. I get my dates and times mixed up because it's just really a blur. I was not in a good headspace for those years. I would hang out with my friends a little bit, but like I never fit in. I never felt like I belonged anywhere. I was just kind of there. I listened a lot. I didn't talk a lot. I had a hard time expressing myself and being vocal, I guess. It is what it is. So yeah, I dated him for 3 years. I got my first job at 16, and I made enough money to buy a plane ticket to South Carolina, and my mom let me go. I stayed there for the summer. I stayed with my boyfriend in South Carolina, and I lived in Texas for at least 2 months over the summertime, and then I bought a plane ticket. My mom made me come home. She bought me a plane ticket to come home, and I actually had the flu when I left there, so bad that like I was pulling gunk out of my eyes and stuff. It was the worst I've ever had the flu. I felt terrible. They took me to the airport. I didn't have any money, and I missed my flight because I was trying to get there, but it was like on the other side of the airport from where I came in, and I was late because I am always fashionably late. And I just didn't want to go, and I missed my flight and had to stay at Atlanta, Georgia airport by myself at 17 with no money, overnight to get a new flight to go home. And I talked to someone, and they gave me a like food voucher so I could have a meal that night. I met a group of young people that were about my age, who were all traveling that night, and we all kind of stuck together because it was kind of scary. Not gonna lie, it was sketch. It was pretty freaking sketchy. We played frisbee in the hall though, and like it was a fun time. I will always remember that. That was great. Even though I was sick, it was still a very good memory for me, amidst having to go back home to what I knew I was going home to. I also was pulled out of school at 16. I was a sophomore in high school, and it was because there was like a gun threat, but really I just didn't want to go to school anymore. I was struggling really, really hardcore. I never really recovered. I didn't have therapy for my grief over my friend dying. I didn't go to see or talk to anyone about it. And then my friend at the time, like, he was one of my best friends at the time, Brandon, he was backyard wrestling, and his shirt, they were doing like WWE wrestling, backyard wrestling, and I know it's dangerous and you shouldn't do it. They knew to. But long story short with that, he was doing a wrestling match with a friend. They got a door and put lighter fluid on it and lit the door on fire. It was a flaming door match. And he was wearing a flannel shirt. And whenever he got slammed into the door, the flannel shirt soaked up the lighter fluid and the flannel caught fire. And so we were all there, in the yard, and we all freaked out. Luckily, they had an ice chest with water in it nearby. They put the fire out on him, but it was pretty traumatic. He was burned very badly. He had third-degree burns on his back and second-degree burns up one side and down the other. He had to have skin graft. I visited him in the hospital while he was there, and actually I was the one who went and got his girlfriend from the Greyhound station when she came to see him for the first time. He had a long-distance girlfriend. And at the time I was long distance with my boyfriend, so we were friends about, like, we had a connecting thing. So, and that was the day that he came home. He was coming home from the hospital. We took him home. And that was when he met his girlfriend for the first time. But yeah, that was traumatic, and I was not doing well in school because I just didn't want to go. I was tired. I was fed up with my life, I guess, at that point. I didn't understand. Stop. Thank you. Thank you for bringing me all the toys. Thank you. I was fed up with my life. I didn't understand half of what was going on. I had been bullied by this girl group relentlessly through middle school. They just wouldn't let up. It was to the point where at one point, me and a couple other girls, I guess we had pissed them off. So they took our photos from the yearbook that year and took a picture from a magazine where there was like cheerleaders on a bed, and they pasted our faces in the place of the cheerleaders' faces, or our heads, and had written some stupid shit all around on the picture and photocopied I don't know how many copies, and they like ended up all over the halls in between classes, and that was humiliating. We'll put it that way. That was a big one. That was a big humiliating thing. They tried to get me kicked out of school. They told the principal that I was out of school district. That was a big thing. That was pretty wild. That was after I had one birthday party where I invited them, and they found out that I lived on the other side of the road from the school district. And so they were like, oh, let's get her kicked out of school. So that was wonderful. We had to go through that. And also, anything that I went through was used against me. It was, I had to help you with those girls and what they did, and now I have to jump through all these hoops from my mother, of course. I have to jump through all these hoops and do all this stuff to try and keep you in school because of this, and there was never any help with school in the first place. It was all on me to do it myself. I never got help with any of that. But yeah, I was bullied pretty relentlessly through middle school into high school. I kind of just recluded. I I didn't really branch out a whole lot. I just kind of went to class and came home and got on the internet and played games because that was life. And um, Zombom Bomb. It's okay. So, yeah, I was bullied, and my friends were my animals and my friends on the internet, and that was about it. I didn't really have much else at that point, and I kind of liked it that way, to be honest. I didn't have to worry about being stabbed in the back or being called names or being treated differently. I just went to class and came home. Well, after Brandon got burned, I dropped out of school and my mom didn't really try to I did homeschooling, right? But I didn't really do the work, and she didn't really care. She got on my case about it a little bit, but then at a certain point she was just like, well, whatever. So I just played games and talked on the internet, and at 17 on that game, Anarchy Online, I met a boy who was 26. I was 17, and he showed interest in me, and I showed interest in him. But I was 17, and 3 days after I turned 18, he asked me out, and I said yes. That fall, I flew out to see him for the first time, so it was either that fall or the fall after that. I think I was 19, and he was 28. So we had already had drama and stuff, but we were together, whatever you want to call that. And I went to visit him in Florida for the first time, and my mom was I was 18 at that point, 19, so she was like, whatever. But looking back, he was way too old to be interested in me, and I ended up staying with him until I was 22. I ended up moving to Florida when I was 20, 2011 to 2012, like the end of 2012. I ended up moving back because that was how long it took for me to realize that I was being emotionally and verbally and manipulated and abused by someone who was 9 years older or 8 years older than me. I realized that there was a power imbalance there, and I basically found any way I could to get back to Texas, even though I was going back home to my parents, which is what we did. And the entire time I was in Florida, it was not good. We never had a car. We walked or rode the bus everywhere. He was addicted to porn. He obviously had a problem with liking girls that were a little bit too young. And so that was the thing. He made my life not really worth living. So I moved home, and I've had to do a lot of healing from that relationship. I got PTSD from that relationship. When I moved home, I couldn't shower by myself. I couldn't shower in Florida with him there because every time I turned around, he was masturbating to porn on the internet of girls that were not me, and I ended up finding his stash that was just immense. It was huge. It was gigs, like 100,000 picture video. It was big. It was big. They were like named. The porn stars were named. It was great. That was before I moved home. So that was one of the big deciding factors too for me that I was done. But I was also scared of him. He scared me. There was a big power imbalance there. Anytime I would get up, we fought all the time. Anytime I would get upset, he would threaten to kill himself or, something of that sort. It was straight up manipulation. And I was scared, but I was also very young, and I didn't know what normal was in the first place, so I had no idea that was not, that I just thought he cared about me. I wanted to think that he loved me, but you don't do that to somebody that you love. I didn't know how to love myself though. That's something I've had to learn, and it's taken me a very long time to get to where I am now, which, like, I know my worth, I know who I am, I'm proud of myself, I've done a lot of work. It's been a hard road, it's been hard, and I came from the bottom up. I was at rock bottom about 5 years ago, and I finally admitted that I had a problem and that I needed help and I needed to go to therapy. So I did that. I had to go through trauma therapy for PTSD. I'm on the spectrum, whatever that means. So I'm autistic, I guess. Neurospicy, I like to say. So that's another reason why it's been so hard for me to have this conversation that I've been wanting to have with the internet. But I just felt like it was time. I listen to my heart now, where I couldn't hear it before. I didn't know how to listen to myself and what I wanted. I didn't learn how. I didn't know. I had no self-love. I didn't have self-worth. So that was difficult to learn. And it's actually taken me the full 5 years that I've been in therapy to get to this point to where I can talk about any of this. I had to learn how to love myself literally from nothing. It's been God and me working overtime to get to where I am now. And I am so grateful for that. I wouldn't be here without God. That's the only thing that's got me through this life that I've lived. I don't even understand it. It's like I had to learn how to listen to my own problems because I would do anything to avoid my own problems, and I had a lot of them. I could do a whole series of problems that I've had to work through, but basically I had to learn how to love myself so I could love my husband, because I made mistakes a lot of them. I've had to do a lot of growing up, which is hard when you don't know anything. I've lived my life kind of in a fog. It's felt like there was just a veil over my eyes, and I had no connection to anything that was around me. I was very disengaged, dissociated from my whole life experiences, even having my children. Up until I had my third son, or my second son, but my third child in 2023. He helped me also, being pregnant with him, helped me heal a lot of my trauma. I had medical trauma, birth trauma. I guess I've just had to heal through a lot of trauma. It boils down to that. I've been traumatized my whole life. I've never really talked about it. But I'm doing so much better now. I finally feel like I can breathe. I'm happy. I feel joy. I didn't even know what that felt like before this. Like last year, primarily this last year, and then in January I lost my grandmother, who was literally the only person in my corner that I even remotely trusted. I lost her, and that was really hard. And it's still been very hard. I've been through so much since I came up out of that river, especially. I feel like that was really when things started going extra fast. After that, I really doubled down on, like, I'm going to heal. I'm going to find the things that are causing me to not be able to live my life. I didn't understand why I've been so shut off from the world. I have never really held a job. That first job that I got that money to go to South Carolina was my only real job. I have no driver's license. I cannot drive. I'm too terrified to get behind the wheel most days. I've tried here and there, but ultimately it's been no to driving, which has left me kind of dependent on my husband for pretty much everything. Or his family. I don't go places by myself. Obviously I have kids, but before we had our kids, I still did not go places by myself. He drove everywhere. I feel like at this point he's been like a caretaker for me, because I, up until this point, have been really unable to do most things an independent person would do. And I got to the point where I looked around and I was kind of like, what's happening? Because I'm healing and I'm going through the steps. I stopped drinking alcohol in January. I had many times in my life where I've had a problem with alcohol, but my dad is an alcoholic. My mother was an alcoholic. She, my family is kind of wild. So I was an alcoholic here and there. I could stop drinking. I would stop drinking while I was pregnant with my kids, and I had no problem quitting. It was just to cope with things. It was one of my preferred choices. But I quit drinking alcohol in January. I have not drank since. It was when my grandmother died and I was like, oh, I could just have a drink, and then I realized that was me enabling myself to continue when I had already told myself that I wanted to quit. I had already made the decision that I wanted to quit drinking. So I was like, why not start now? I can make that change. It's not hard. And so I stopped. And that has also helped me get to this point where I'm at now, because my mind is clear. I have had some issues with medications where I have, in February, I had like a mental health crisis, basically. That's what it's labeled as. And I ended up in the hospital, dehydrated and scared and confused. And since then, I've got medications taken care of and everything is lined out, and I feel great. I feel the best I've ever felt in my life, and I'm just so grateful for that. I'm so grateful to God for helping me through the life that I've lived. I don't know how I've made it. Confirmation burp there. I don't know how I've made it this far. There were so many times where I didn't think I was going to make it another day. I was just so done with everything, with being myself. Being me was such a burden. I hear you. The whole world hears you right now. Do you know that? You're on the video, Mau Mau Mowing. Yeah, there were many times where I was just pretty done with everything. I had postpartum depression after I had my first son. I've not had an easy run of things, but I can say now that I am so proud of myself. I'm so proud of who I've become. I'm so proud to be here, and I'm so grateful and so blessed that I knew I needed to make a video. I was guided and told many times that I needed to just go ahead and take the leap of faith and put myself out there, because my story can help someone, and I have a lot of them. I have a lot of stories. I have a lot of wild stories that I could say. My life has been a roller coaster of emotions, a roller coaster of just confusion. Basically, at the end of the day, I realized I was paying karma back for the things that I've done in my life, and I have done a lot of them. I've done a lot of things that I don't necessarily, I'm not necessarily proud of. I've done a lot of things. I've made a lot of mistakes. I've hurt a lot of people with just being confused and not knowing who I was or what to do with my life or anything in it. But I feel like I could help somebody who maybe feels the same way right now. I know there are a lot of people out there right now who are scared and confused. And I've lived a lot of my life in that place. I lived most of my life scared and confused. Unsure. It was hard to be alive. And I just know that I'm meant to do something more than that, more than just be scared and confused with my life. And I'm at a place now where I feel like I can talk about the things that I've been through. And that alone may help somebody. So that's what I'm going to do. And this video has been long enough, but I will make more. I'm going to make more videos. I will talk about things as they come up. I'm just gonna wing it. And I'll see you next time. Thank you.